Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Darren Belazaire, and I'm a real estate agent in the state of Florida. And don't mind the hat, I'm just covering up a bad hair day. It's okay. For those of you on the podcast, you cannot see it. For those of you on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, you're going to see this video, so don't mind the hat. So today's episode is actually very special. It's something I myself have been looking into doing for a long time, and I want to share that with you just to see if you're maybe interested. That's another method for you to invest in real estate without even owning a property. How does that sound, right? If that sounds great, if you're on YouTube, Facebook, and all the other platforms, leave a like in the description and let's get going. So we live in a world that's very dedicated to sharing, right? We live in the ride-sharing economy, like they like to say, a place where you can share something that you have and make a little bit of money over time on or with it. Well, in the real estate market, there is a platform that does allow you to do it to some extent, and that's called Airbnb. So if you're an Airbnb investor, you're doing what's called a rental arbitrage, meaning that you are using a commodity, in this case real estate, that you're placing on one market, what you get from one market, and placing on the other. That other market being Airbnb, Vrbo, and all these other platforms that are being used nowadays as a retail arbitrage, well, a rental arbitrage space. I keep saying retail. Maybe I need to buy a new hat. I don't know, but it does make sense for you, right? So most retail investors, rental investors aim to make around $1,000 a month, and that's very fair. I mean, it's a net profit. So in terms, rental arbitrage is literally taking a property that you're renting and place it on Airbnb. It just may be a room that you already have open, a spare bedroom, or an entire property. It depends on you. Kind of like the last episode that we did when we talked about house hacking. This is pretty similar, pretty close to it, and you can pretty much do it as you wish, as you want to do it, right? There's no limit to it. There's no how to do. There's a how to that I want to share with you, but there's no specific method. What you feel works for you is what works for you. There's no other way around it. So when we're talking about rental arbitrage in this space, at least in real estate, we're talking about taking a property that you're renting from an owner, a landlord, and placing that property back on the market on Airbnb. Now, a lot of people are going to ask, is it legal? Yes, it's legal to do. It's 100% legal to do, but you need to have permission from the owner and as well verify your local mandates. Some cities, some states, some counties have limitations on doing Airbnb and how you can do Airbnb. Some do require licensing, but I'll leave that up to you to make that research and find out if it makes sense for you to do. There's a lot to it. I don't want to get too deep and too involved. Again, this is a quick podcast. It's not more than 10 minutes. I cannot teach you a whole thing a lot in the whole 10 minutes, but it is for you to get an idea of a different source of income that you can try to get into to potentially down the line become a full-on real estate investor. Real estate is one of the markets that, it can crash, but over time real estate accrues value. And, there's an adage that says buy land because they don't make more. All right, so keep that in mind. I have my notes here, so if you see me look down, I have to read my notes sometimes. So what are the pros of doing Airbnb or rental arbitrage, right? Well, one of the biggest benefits of rental arbitrage is that you don't have to buy a home to do it, right? You don't need to be cash heavy or cash invested in a property. That means you don't have to save up you do have to save up, but you don't have to save up as much. You have to save up just the amount that you need to rent a property. So that's your 3 month deposit, right? First class is security. Make sure you have decent credit. Make sure that you're in good financial standings, and you can back it up, right? There's no closing costs, no expensive mortgage, nothing else that will be required of you. You can also get the Airbnb or the rental arbitrage business started pretty quickly. As long as you find a landlord that's willing to invest with you and give you permissions to do it, it can be done fairly easily and fairly quick. All you have to do is sign the lease, literally set up the home and start making cash. It sounds so easy because it's fairly easy compared to the other investment methods that you can get into. Another big perk, you can also use a property for yourself, right? At any time that it's not being rented, you can go there and use that property. there's no issue. There's no issue there because you are renting the property. You know, you have to feel free to take advantage of the property whenever you have a chance to. You know, and probably you lose a little bit of money on it, but it's okay because you get the usage. Lastly, it's a good way to build up capital over time for investment that you're looking to take on in the future. If you want to buy a long-term property, a fix and flip, your profit from that can be used somewhere else. So again, the pros: no need to purchase a property, few startup costs, easy and fast to get started. You can use your property yourself, and potential savings for long term. For any good size, there's always a downside, right? This downside in arbitrage is that, one, the home isn't yours, right? So if at any time the landlord decides not to renew your lease, then you lose that property. You know, there's also the risk, right? Seasonal rental is always risky. Just look at what happened with COVID, right? A lot of those cities shut down, so you did not have travelers, you did not have people that came back in town or came back fast enough for you to be able to use the properties or generate income from that property. That is one aspect of it. You're also responsible for the short-term rental host, right? You have to cover up the cost of utilities that they paid. You have to cover up, you know, all the bills. You have to manage the maintenance, cleaning, any repairs on the property that's being done, and all these fees will start eating up in your profit. And the hardest part of it all, it can be very difficult for you to find a property that's going to let you use a landlord that's going to let you use their property as a sublet, right? You have to get that agreement going right away. You have to kind of teach them and talk to them and convince them to let you do so. Another con is that the bookings may fluctuate. One month you may have a lot, another month you don't have enough, which might make it harder to pay for rent. It might be hard to find the right person to rent to. You know, you have the wear and tears of the properties. You have the utilities, the maintenance fees, all these things that you have to take into consideration yourself. But before we go any further, let's discuss the legality of rental arbitrage, right? Is it legal to do so? Technically, yes. Like I said earlier, you do have to look at your local ordinances. Do they allow you to do that? Do you need a permit? Do you need some type of a special licensing? Whatever it is, you just have to get good at doing it. Get good at doing it. You have to get good. You have to understand your product. You have to understand the market. You have to understand where you're getting in. What are you getting into? Another surefire way to make sure it's legal is to get a written agreement with the landlord that you're moving into, that you're allowed to do so. There's different ways to look at rental arbitrage, right? There's the Airbnb way, and I have another friend that's doing it herself, but she's renting to travel nurses. So she's renting the property through an LLC and has the agreement that she can use the property for her company to move workers in, which is a good bonus. It's a good plus. Yeah. And then before you get started with rental arbitrage, well, that's the legality, right? But now you're looking into getting started with rental arbitrage. You have to understand what you can and cannot do. You also have to understand your market, right? Spend that time to look into what it takes to rent in that area. What does the rent go for? Well, when I say rent, the nightly booking rates. What do they go for? What is there to do in the area, in the town? Get familiar with the area that you're choosing so that you know what you're proposing to your renters. You know, and as well, that's pretty much it in a heartbeat, right? To really get started, you want to first find a landlord that's willing to let you do that with their property. And two, you want to, you know, explain and teach to them the reason that you're doing it and what is the bonus in doing it with you instead of doing it with someone else, right? You have to explain to them that they're getting a long-term tenant. You're not looking to come out of the investment anytime soon unless you're ready to move on to a different property. That you'll be motivated to keep the property clean, upkept, and in good, stable condition, because just like it's an investment for them, it's also an investment for you. If the property is not well kept, then you cannot do business and they can eventually not sell the property down the line. A good thing about these platforms like Airbnb A lot of these homes come with with insurance up to $1 million. Depends on the platform, depends on the home. I said up to $1 million. So that's another incentive to explain to the landlord that property is going to be insured for any damage that happen. That's pretty much it. I mean, that was a quick short term. If you want to get into investing without putting any money out from your pocket, then look into rental arbitrage. And once again, my name is Darren Belazaire. I'm with Somar Realty here in South Florida. Feel free to give me a call. Link me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform you can find me on. I'm there at ThebuywithDarren. Once again, have a wonderful day. Peace.